And I'm here with Yusno Yunos of Evenesis, and Sembang Marketing Tech is now live. Hello everyone. Hi Yusno. Welcome everybody to another episode of Sembang Marketing Tech. Today we
Hello
have
everyone. Hi Yusno. Welcome everybody.
Today we have a
Sembang
techie
Marketing Tech.
who
Today,
is
hello
on a
everyone.
mission
Hi Yusno.
to create
Welcome
better
everybody.
event experience with technology for corporates, event organizers,
Hello everyone. Hi Yusno. Welcome
and
everybody.
attendees. Evenesis is a cloud-based event management platform that helps companies in creating memorable events. Apart from handling the pre- and post-event activities, the components of Evenesis also facilitate all activities on the day of the event. Hi, Yusno. Hi. Better event experience. I think
Hi
that's
Yusno. Hi.
better event experience. I think
Hi
that's
Yusno. Hi.
okay.
Betty.
So, hi Yusno. Sorry, I had playback because I was so excited about our session today. I was sharing
Hello. Hi, Manisa.
sampai the live sessions were playing on different platforms at the same time. So hi Isno, welcome to Sembang Marketing Tech. Glad to have you here. You were number one last year. I wanted you number one this year, but we managed to catch you in the end. Evenesis has been super busy, I think. So let's catch up. So what's the latest with Evenesis?
Hey, hi, Manisa. Thank you again for having me. It's been 1 year, kan?
Yep,
Sekejap je.
gila.
From
Mas
the
kejap.
days of the pandemic to endemic, kan? Now that we are in mid of 2022 already, and I guess a lot of things have happened. Interesting things within the company and within the industry that I'm in, which is the events, which I will be sharing a bit definitely with you guys. And I think events in this industry have been coming back, have been making a big comeback. I think all of you can see lah. Nowadays, every week, every weekend, you're seeing a lot of expos, conferences everywhere. People are dying to meet face to face. That's the sentiment right now, and I'm glad actually in a way that we are going back to the way we used to do events, especially the physical face to face that is required, like especially when you are doing networking, etc. So it's a good time to be in, definitely, Anissa.
I remember when we met, it was I think about 12 years ago, less than 12 years ago, and I remember the opportunity to work on the brand Kickstart and Refresh for Evenesis, and you guys have gone through quite a evolution, if I can say, from the first version of Evenesis to the second one, and I think you're moving on to the next phase. Maybe you can share a bit more about what you're on to this year.
Sure. I think ever since we started about 12 years ago, Evenesis has always been the platform, the technology that empower all of our event organizers. So it will allow them to create fantastic events. It will make the events more memorable. So that has been our first tagline, and I remembered working with you to enhance that brand. Where, as you can see from the video that ended earlier, where we were looking into better event experiences using technology. So what has happened this year is that we are upping it another level, where we are now looking at the ability to create sustainable and experiential events using or via technology. So it is not just about making the experience better, but
Mm,
ensuring the events that you are creating or you're doing, you are attending, is
mm,
also in line with all the sustainable goals, ensuring that
yeah,
the emission of the carbon, greenhouse effect are all minimized. So we believe all of this can be possible with technology. So this is where we are heading. The software has been upgraded a lot. It is a live solution. Recently, it is also available as a new package. So if you haven't been to our website, go to evenesis.com, and then you can actually now sign up for free. You can create a basic event, especially if you are an early, yeah, you are early into the event organizing space, and then you get to use some of these features at no cost. And of course, if you're doing a bigger scale event, then you would have to
yeah.
upgrade and come and talk to us on that lah. So this is where we are good at the space we've been playing for quite some time, and we're proud to be serving the industry till today lah. So that's a quick update from our side, Melissa.
The apa tu, this development actually is quite consistent with the development of ESG for corporates, right? But how would you distinguish sustainability for events from the typical type of sustainability that your ESG framework normally addresses?
I mean, even though we've been around for 12 years, the mentality is still on the startup mode lah in the company, right? So I mean, this year when we are embarking on this sustainability journey, it's not something that we want to quickly address. It is a long-term sort of
Hmm.
like strategy as well. We are putting 5 years plan
Hmm.
within the company to ensure we are ourselves are sustainable and also the industry. So if you're talking about how do we align ourselves, definitely it comes back to all of the sustainability goals, the
Yeah.
one that is coming from UN SDGs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But rather than bore you with all of those details, I think going with the startup mentality is all about idea execution, again. So what we want to see is what can we do now to actually address some of these sustainability issues within the events industry. Simply said, we see a lot of times people are harping, talking about, yeah, we need to be eco-friendly, we need to ensure we minimize the greenhouse effect dan sebagainya. But then again, we don't really take real action. And in events itself, I see that happening a lot because we do not have the right data. We do not know how much carbon is being measured or is being emitted, and what can we do with those numbers. So this is where I think we could come in, give some awareness to not just the event organizers, but also event attendees, and let them decide what do we do with these numbers, whether they can do some sort of like an offsetting or with some of the green projects out there. But at the end of the day, essentially, it is very important for everyone in this industry to understand how sustainability impacts the events. So, I mean, it boils back to the way you start to design and plan your events. Yeah, that is basically the basis of everything that we do. Kan? I think in our life pun, we are looking at the energy that we consume, the traveling that we make on a daily basis. So in events, it's the same thing. So when you do an event, whether it is physical or digital, virtual like this, can you have to understand how is that particular event is impacting the environment. Okay,
So let's
so
break this down. So we've got physical events, and then we've got digital events, right?
right.
If I was to come up with a checklist of elements of the events that I need to take care of to make sure that the event is sustainable, could you talk me through what would those items be in those two checklists?
Okay, let's take I would say a simple physical event lah. So normally when you do a conference or an exhibition, at the very early stage, you would look at, of course, what would be the event is all about, the venue, the location, the type of attendees, your audience, where they're going to come from. So if I were to list all of the things that you have to do, I don't think we would have enough time. Like Manisa. So, but basic
Maybe
things that you need to look
meetings.
at. Yeah,
Yeah.
basic things that you need to look at. For example, if you're choosing a venue, so
Mm.
you need to look at what are the sustainable venues that are available in your area. Kan?
Mm.
Satu is whether that venue itself comply with some of the sustainable standards. Kan?
Right.
The other thing is you also look at the location of that venue, whether is it easily accessible, ada public transport ke tak. Because if it is not accessible, the cost is people have to travel on their own, which is they have to use car. And
Mm.
as you know, when you drive, you will contribute to, or you will leave some carbon footprint. And this is the number one, actually, the largest carbon emission for any event is actually travel. Okay,
Mm.
memang about, kalau you tengok studies, about 70-80% lah is travel. If it is an international event, it's even worse because we are looking at air travel. Okay,
Right.
and when it is car travel, domestic travel, all of this, basically, if you calculate, the numbers are actually very, very big. So this is a big factor that sometimes event organizers cannot control. It's beyond their control, because if it is an event, people still have to go. But it
Right.
is important for you to communicate the message that, yep, you are traveling, this will be the number of, or the number of kilogram of carbon
Mm.
dioxide that will be emitted, but what
Mm.
can you do with that, or what can you do to offset that? So this is something that we have to start educating the public, educating the event organizers, and ensure that this message is well known in the way it's distributed to all of the attendees coming to the event.
So if the main contributor is traveling, right? Does it mean going digital is the answer to that? Apart from offsetting against other activities.
Well, surprisingly, that during lockdown or during the pandemic, we had to minimize travel, so we had to do things digitally. And yes,
Mm.
you can see that a lot of things have changed.
Right.
In other words, events are definitely more sustainable,
Mm.
less people traveling, meaning less carbon being emitted.
Mm.
But that does not equate to zero emission lah. So this is something that
Oh.
when you're doing virtual or digital events, it does
Yep.
not mean you are carbon neutral. Okay, let me tell you why. When you're doing virtual events, you are actually, for example, this event is virtual. Um, I mean, I'm using my own laptop. You're using your laptop. There's a servers that are processing all of these things. So a
Yep.
lot of energy, okay,
Ah.
electricity are being consumed, right? And it really depends on how the energy is being generated as well, right? I don't think
Mm.
we are at a place to have a clean 100% renewable energy yet. So that
Mm.
itself is actually contributing to carbon emission. So there
Mm.
is a lot of digital or virtual event carbon calculator out there that you can quickly enter the number of hours that you're spending on your laptop, kan? How many people are attending, because the viewers like you guys who are attending it via LinkedIn and YouTube, you guys are
Yeah.
connected to the laptop as well, and you
Yeah.
guys are powering that laptop as well. So it is not carbon neutral as what we thought it would be, but definitely it is consuming less carbon, or it is emitting less carbon than what you would normally have in a physical huge scale events out there. So this is something that I think some of us might not be aware of.
Mm. Mm-mm. Um, I guess a lot of it is to do with transparency. Acknowledgement first, it's acknowledgement about the components of the events uh, that has impact on the environment, and the ability for technology to measure and also to account for the overall impact of the events that's being held. In terms of these calculators, you mentioned this now. Um, there's not only one, right? I would imagine that for corporates, event organizers, and attendees, corporates and event organizers especially lah, the one organizing the events, they would have to put together all the different data, because I think like when you talk about the different sources of things like carbon footprint and whatever that impacts sustainability comes from different things, and have to be measured differently, right? Does that mean companies have to like come up with their own like dashboard or something? They have to put together everything manually now. How does it work?
Um, Okay, there are many ways to do that. I would say the easiest way is to just Google, simply because I mean a lot of these big organizations, they have come up with their own spreadsheet lah. I think a lot
Mm,
of the calculations are done via a spreadsheet. Some of the websites, they do have some estimators where you just key in some of these numbers,
mm,
because most of these calculations can be found in terms of the formula online. So it is not that hard to find. It's just that a lot of data that you need to collect in order for you to understand the entire view of how much carbon is being emitted from an event. And this is something that we are trying to do, yeah, Manisa. So this is
mm,
something that my team and I are trying to look at for the benefit of the event organizers, so that
mm,
when any attendee, for example, they use our platform to purchase or register for an event,
mm,
that itself is a starting place for them to understand whether or not they will be traveling via flight from which point to which point, or whether they will be attending it virtually. So with that basic estimator, they would already know that if I were to purchase and attend this event physically and I'm here in Singapore, the event is in KL, that much of carbon will be emitted, and then will give you a way to basically offset it on your own. So that first
mm,
phase is something that we believe a platform like Evenesis can do.
mm.
Moving forward, I think we'll start developing more towards the entire. Uh, I mean, we'll try to cover every angle of an event, so that event organizers will have that bird's eye view, lah, not just
Mm,
on the attendees, but also on the venue, the other suppliers, exhibitors,
mm.
freight and logistics. Because in events, kan Manisa, dia punya components are a lot. Okay, it's
Mm.
not just venue, can.
Yep.
So when you're dealing with so many components that sometimes you are not able to control, this is
Yep.
where I mentioned earlier that it is very important to have the planning stage right, because you
Yep.
can identify who are your right suppliers. Because if
Mm.
you have a sustainability policy in the company, then you will also make sure your suppliers are using or having the same policy that aligns to your goals lah, in a way. So in a way,
Mm.
you would not want to find a printer or a company that basically do not have that policy in place. Kan, you tak nak lah ada venue yang do not have a proper waste management, especially for food leftovers. Bila you
Yep.
have a venue, you already have that checklist saying that, okay, what will happen to the food? if there is a lot of leftover, there is a way of channeling it to other NGOs ke dan sebagainya. So all of these things normally will come with the right planning. Okay, so that's where I think we have to look at, or we can start with lah.
I mean, I'm interested to know a little bit more about the projects that you guys have been involved in. Maybe you can share a bit on that.
Yeah, boleh. I think in May we were quite lucky to be a strategic partner of PPTD. PPTD is Persatuan Pentadbir Pegawai Pentadbir dan Diplomatik, is the senior government officers kan. So this club basically they decided to organize an aircraft reef Malaysia event where they actually, it's the first time it went into the Malaysia Book of Records already. They brought down an airplane in dekat Pulau Lang Tengah, to make it like an artificial reef lah, so that it can create an alternative to people who love to dive kan. So it is actually ensuring lah the marine life, conserving things. So that is something that we were proud of to work with them. Number one is because they are from the government. And when they engaged us, they specifically told us that they wanted everything to be digital because there is no point having such an event and yet you are still sending your invitation to all of these ministers, senior government officials via letters, kan? Even faxed, kan? So all of that has changed. Then Evenesis came in and basically automated all of those things before that particular event, and also during the event at the island itself, where they are basically connected to the Wi-Fi and they were able to check in easily using whatever that we provided without any single piece of paper being printed lah. So that itself is in a way helping the environment, so that it is just one of the things that I believe we should be looking at when we are talking about technology, digital age dan sebagainya kan. So that event itself, I think if you want to have a better understanding of what aircraft reef is about, I think I have a short 3-minute clip for you. Maybe if you can run the video, I think it would be good.
Let's do that. nice. Were you one of the scuba divers that brought down the airplane apa tu, in the video?
Kemudian Manisa,
Were you
sorry.
one of the scuba divers that was in the video?
I wish. Was planning to get the apa tu diving license but tak sempat lah.
Okay. So apa tu, so this was one project that you worked on this year. So are you looking at more sustainability projects coming up like this year, next year perhaps? Anything
Yes.
anything coming up?
Definitely. Actually, this is not. I mean, this was not the only one. I think we had quite a number of events in the past few months that are talking about forestry, conservation of the environment, wildlife. Kita ada one event that we helped with dekat KK recently. It is called Asia
Mm,
Park Congress.
mm,
So I think we managed to get about 30 over participants from 30 different countries
mm,
to attend that physically dekat Kota Kinabalu. So
yep,
I think these are some of the events that are talking about the right way to make our environment better, safer, as I mentioned lah. So
mm,
I think moving forward, the sustainability component will always be part of whatever that we do from now on.
mm,
How our event organizers are going to use that, it really depends on the awareness, which will we
mm,
always and continuously educate them. But
mm,
this is something that we can't force, you see,
right,
because when I mean, there's no point forcing if you don't understand why you need to do those things. Yeah.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think I've shared earlier with you before we started the conversation that we are one of the countries who are producing a lot of carbon footprint,
right,
and the data is showing as of 2020 itself, I mean, per capita carbon dioxide is being emitted in Malaysia is about 8 tons.
yeah,
That is a lot.
a lot,
So, I mean,
yeah,
whatever that we can do on our part to ensure events can start reducing that.
mm,
So, this involves measurement, work involved in offsetting, insetting, and many other ways that we are trying to work with, especially with NGOs, can, so that
mm,
whatever that we do, in fact, we are pledging as well right now that for every event that
yeah,
is running on our platform,
yeah,
from the beginning of the year, we will plant one tree for every event. Yeah. So as of July itself, kita dah ada about 105, 105. This is the number that I got from my team a few weeks ago.
mm,
So 105 trees will be planted. So in one of the areas in Sabah lah, dekat Kinabatangan. So we are working with another NGO called ROAR,
mm,
ROAR.
mm,
So these are the things that we are doing on the side to ensure we walk whatever that we talk lah. And it's easy to do to say or to come on live show like this and say that we are doing those things, but if you're not walking the talk, it's even worse to me. So to
mm.
me, I encourage a lot of event organizers out there to really measure, yeah, and how to do that. I think with technology we can definitely help you, and then we can work more towards the next step.
Interesting that you talk about walking the talk. Because I think when it comes to things like sustainability, there is a big chance I think that people are going to use this or do this for probably for vanity reporting,
PR,
for
PR.
yeah, for PR, so how do you get your event organizers to get to a certain level where you're doing it beyond reporting, beyond for marketing, actually for the environment, for the impact? How do you see that happening?
Well, to me, it is not bad, because at the end of the day, whether it is good or bad, everything is marketing, kan?
Mm,
So we are also actually talking part of the Sembang Marketing Tech. So I think the feel good factor is something that will drive event organizers. So it has to entice to you emotionally. So if it does really go to your heart, then you will understand why you're doing these things. Yeah, of
mm,
course, the feel good factor will come in many ways. Whether you publicize it, whether you talk about it, you share about it, you would write it in newspaper or whatever it is. So that's your choice.
Mm.
But what I'm saying is that to get them to be on board is for them to really understand the impact that they're going to create if you continue doing things the way you normally do.
Mm.
Yeah, the rise of temperature that we are all seeing globally happening right now, the
Yeah.
heat wave that is happening in UK, US, kan?
Mm.
So a lot of things that are very imbalanced right now. And if you can't see that and you think that whatever that you are doing is not contributing to
Yeah.
that effect, then I think
Yeah.
you're wrong. You need to start taking stock of these numbers. Yeah, measure that. Try to do a lot of insetting instead of not just offsetting. I think the concept of insetting carbon is something that is not yet popular because you
Yeah.
selalu dengar orang cakap offsetting carbon kan. Offsetting is
Mm.
easy sebab it is
Mm.
external. You
Mm.
know your carbon, you just find a project out there, you just dump your money and then it is offsetted lah in a way.
Yeah.
Tapi
Right.
insetting is more about something that you can control within your supply chain. So if
Mm.
you are an event organizer, you look at your supply chain. What's your downstream? What's your upstream? What is within your control? And then
Mm.
look at how you can reduce the emission, the carbon footprint internally
Mm.
within that supply chain. So you do that first before you start looking at offsetting. So offsetting is the easiest way lah sebenarnya, which I
Yeah.
don't really. But then again, for the sake of making people understand the basics, itu yang example saya bagi tadi kan, you do tree
Yeah.
planting kan,
Yeah. Yeah.
projek-projek yang orang senang faham. Tapi benda-benda ni is actually at the very lowest level if you really
Right.
want to start change.
Grassroots. Quite
Grassroots.
grassroots. Yeah.
Betul.
I can see where you're going from here, because when you start with offset, it's an easier way for people to take on sustainability, because that it means, whatever you've got, you make sure that you've got something positive that you're offsetting with the non-sustainable things that you're doing, right? But I think over time, what you would want is for them to start working towards incorporating the changes internally at grassroots level, so that the event is sustainable. From a marketing point of view, of course, there is some level of ethical standards required, and paling basic lah. Most basic for me is, whatever you say must be true. You cannot claim something that is not so true, right? So for event organizers that wants to promote the event and that wants to use the sustainability angle as a way to sell the event, they need to remember this: you cannot sell without walking the talk, right?
Agree.
Because if you sell something and it's not true, then I think when it comes to the ethical part of the claims, you'll get into trouble with it, because people will find out, right?
Yeah.
People will find out eventually.
This is
um
what is happening right now with all the
mm,
greenwashing that we've been
mm,
seeing lah. A lot
mm,
of talk kan, claiming I'm doing this for this, but this is where at the end of the day, data matters kan. Remember, we're
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
analytics kan,
Yes.
and this is where
Yes.
technology will come in, because once you start to produce the proof, yeah, by way of data, meaning that yep, we gathered this. These are basically the numbers from
Mm,
what the activities that are happening on the ground. The
yeah.
data are collected, are stored, and then can be reproduced, can be analyzed for future events. And when you
Mm,
start giving these numbers, this
mm,
is actually a proof beyond what apa orang kata reasonable doubt lah kan. And these are the
mhm,
numbers that the government can actually look and see
yeah.
and start giving what we call the honest truth lah out there. Because right now we know how the numbers are basically being cooked up anyway, kan? They have a lot of these reports, it's just estimation from here and there, but then again, nothing that is supplied using technology, software, etc.
So I'm quite looking forward to more upgrades in Evenesis, because I would imagine that I think organizing the event is already a lot. There's already a lot of components for organizers to manage. If we go into the tech, and they're able to crunch the numbers and get the report in terms of what they have saved, or what they've offset or inset, life would be easy, right? But in terms of your direction with the tech, are you looking at becoming the calculator, the mega calculator for sustainability for events?
I mean, we don't want to claim like the mega calculator, but at the end of the day, I think the I mean the knowledge is there. Is I mean how you want to do the calculation. You have a lot of papers written out there. There are many estimators or calculators that you can use or basically write on.
Hmm.
But as long as we give the right one that is easy enough lah. At the end of the day, kalau you tengok some of
Hmm.
these spreadsheets, yeah, I've seen some of these spreadsheets that are used to do the calculation. It is very detailed and it will take you a long time to complete.
Hmm.
Okay, and then it is not even giving you the right number
Okay.
in live mode, meaning you have to
Yeah.
fill up the spreadsheet and then you have
Yeah.
to email that spreadsheet to that particular organization for
Oh,
them
and
to
then
give you the final number. Okay, so
oh.
there is another set of analysis that they will do to give you
Hmm.
the final number. So it is
Hmm.
not real time. Yeah. So a lot of these things involve yalah, data crunching numbers and sebagainya. So I mean we don't even have to strive to that level. I think
Hmm.
it is good enough to go face by face because I always
Hmm.
believe in MVP mode kan. Try dulu, make them comfortable, make it easy. Easy
Hmm.
for people to start with, easy for people to see the benefit. Which is why
Hmm.
kita cakap tadi, the first
Hmm.
phase is always about attendee. If I were to go and say organizer, I claim that I can give you a impressive or sort of like
Hmm.
comprehensive numbers or
Yeah.
calculators,
Yeah.
but then they go in and then they have to fill up so many things. It will be a turn off, you see.
Actually paper.
But if I start
Especially
at
kalau guna
at
paper.
yeah, if I start at the attendee punya angle,
Yeah.
where because we know they're going to register anyway,
Yeah.
and at the point of registration, we maybe gather a bit more details in terms of how they're going to travel, kan, whether they're gonna share ke transportation ke, whether they're gonna use public transport ke, kan, some of this
Hmm.
information that we can gather at that point, and then
Hmm.
during the event we can do more education and let them know these are the things that they can do if they know
Hmm.
how much they are basically consuming in terms of the carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And then we give them maybe bring during the event tu bagilah some of the NGO some sort of like an avenue or even on
Hmm.
the platform for them
Hmm.
to quickly get carbon credits ke. Nowadays there are many ways lah. So the feel good factor is now on the event attendees.
Yeah.
Okay, and the more events
Yeah.
are going through and try to adopt this, then I feel that the industry will start be more apa
Hmm.
kata open towards showing or releasing some of these numbers for marketing purposes. It will be a very impactful numbers though for marketing.
Hmm. Apa tu? That's actually I'm apa tu, I'm very interested to understand a bit more. How do you see this kind of data being used for marketing? Apart from apa tu, saving of carbon footprints, do you see organizers wanting to declare, say for example, like of course the ones who have regional speakers, they may want to declare the amount of traveling that is being offset with something else. But do you see organizers being comfortable declaring all this for marketing?
Okay, this is something yang a bit tricky ya. Again, I don't organize events, but I work closely with a lot of event organizers.
Mm,
And when I've spoken to most of them in terms of why are we not really calculating end to end, the entire thing.
yeah.
Of course, resources, meaning that it will cost them a lot of time, a lot of people for them to do all of this analysis, and they just don't have the manpower to do that. That's
Mm,
number one. Yeah. So it's not that sometimes it's not that they do not want that. It's just that it's not easy. To them, it's
mm,
not easy lah. I just need another body, or if I can outsource it to someone at a very cheap
yeah.
price, maybe I will do it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
how is this can be turned into a valuable marketing resource? Okay. Now, last year, kan, in 2021, there is this group of event organizers, suppliers, stakeholders. They came out with this net zero carbon events initiative.
Mm,
You can just go to netzerocarbonements.org. So it is actually getting people like us, event organizers, to come together, pledge, sign the document, and build a roadmap towards 2050, where we want to be net zero lah. It's not carbon neutral, it's net zero.
Right.
So you can see we are 2022, it's still 28 years to go, and a lot of things need to be done to get things off the ground. But
Yeah.
the fact that right now, if you go there and you see maybe about 2 or 3 companies from Malaysia, tells you a lot lah. Okay, I think right now we were the first, and then I see KLCC there as well, but I could not find. They might be, but they might not be talking about that much. But you can see
Mm.
the list of pledges within
Mm.
that initiative. So
Mm.
that is a good first step. You see, if you're there, you are marketing it well. In
Yeah.
our case, majority of our, I mean, all of our staff, when we send an email, at the bottom we have that pledge. You see, where we want to go net zero carbons events, right? Net zero carbon events by 2050. So this is something that we basically tell our clients that we are just not technology company, but whatever that we do, if you are with us, we are part of that
Mm.
initiative moving forward. And if you look at the roadmap, it is super comprehensive. Right now, the first draft is about 80 pages long, but I can see in a way how business events will mature in the next 10 to 20 years in terms of the type of technology
10
that they're
to
going to
20
use.
years? Do you think the environment can wait for 10 to 20 years? Lama tu.
I mean, even like I said, even in the community of sustainable practitioners, can
Yeah.
I think we have to take things because it is not easy to change behaviors
Mm.
specifically. So there must be enough incentives for people to change. Betul tak?
Mm.
So right now,
Mm.
why do you actually use plastic bags? Kan, when you shop, or
Yeah.
maybe why do they give out, or why do they charge 20 cents or 30 cents for plastic bags? Kan, this is
Yeah.
to actually tell you that you're not supposed to buy that. You're supposed to bring your own recyclable bags.
Yeah.
So that thing itself is taken us how many years?
Yeah.
Kan, just at that particular level to really understand. And even then, people are still, because I think because the benefits are not outweighing whatever that we are doing. So dia punya challenge is big for everyone.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned lah, it's a long game, but it starts somewhere. And I believe technology is definitely the start to the change lah.
You're also a member of the one of the associations, right? That covers event organizers.
Correct.
Um,
I'm actually recently has been elected as the Vice President of Innovation of Masios. So
mm.
Masios is basically the associations of exhibition and conference organizers in Malaysia lah.
Mm.
So this is association where majority of the players are there,
Mm.
and this is a platform as well for us to start making change and ensure uh, the message gets across lah.
Yeah, I think we're at a stage where definitely the conversation needs to happen at the industry level, and perhaps to some extent the relevant policy maker levels, because change is not easy. Definitely, you need some push, regulatory maybe. For example, like I think when Bursa started pushing listed companies to adopt ESG, include reporting on I think CSR is already a requirement. So I'm thinking perhaps for the larger event organizers, something like that needs to be in place for organizations to make it a point to actually incorporate sustainability in the events that they organize.
Yeah.
But but I have to say, at the rate organizations are organizing physical events this year, after we're allowed to have physical events, it's scary to see. There's so many. My God, there's so many. So if this is going to be in place soon, I think it'll be better for the environment as well. But at the same time, having said that, I think the transition from pandemic to endemic and moving forward, people are a lot more aware about uh, spaces, the distancing compared to before. And I think taking up physical events nowadays is not as quick as before, would you say? Would you say, people are just like, um, you know, going to all these events because, after 2 years not attending events, all dialing in through apa, through laptop, they kind of like, this is like a comeback, like a revenge.
Yeah,
Is it
it's
like
mixture
this
of
now?
both lah, I would say. Yeah, I think it's just that the sentiment or the feeling that you just have to go out, um, just to basically let go of the whatever we have experienced in the past 2 years, the ineffectiveness of virtual events that we have seen. So I think people have come to terms that networking would definitely be more effective physically. You can still derive contents best from virtual events. For
Mm,
example, like this, you need contents, you need knowledge. Yeah, I think you can do well without traveling, but
mm,
networking still requires that physical presence for you to see
yeah.
maybe the exchange of business cards or maybe some sort of like full body sort of like visualization, right? For you
Mm,
to really feel the impact of that conversation. So I think, yeah, this is a transitioning time, but I think as we go on, I think as we leap beyond the endemic stage, I think people will be more comfortable with both worlds,
yeah.
virtual and also physical.
Yeah, because I was just thinking as we were talking, educating the event organizer is one thing, but I think if we can educate the attendees, because for example, like if you have like a thousand coming to your event, and at least 20% of them is conscious about sustainability, they can do something at their level, right? Yes. So
Yes.
we don't have to rely on just the event organizers. All right. We've got questions here. Let me flesh out the first one. Okay. Question from Safety. Safety is asking, how do you ensure your clients would have to have sustainable event? And because I think we all agree that events will produce a very little carbon if compared with another activities that produce carbon every day. Okay. So, how do you ensure that your clients have a sustainable event? Yeah, with a little bit of carbon.
Okay. Good question, Safti. I think the first thing that we need to really know is how little of a carbon that the event organizers are producing, lah. Whether they think they are producing not much, yeah. So it's not worth for them to really measure or even consider that event as a sustainable event. I think this is a mentality that we need to change because no matter how small or no matter how big, there is a lot of components in an event that we might have overlooked. Not just the event, but the suppliers, the contributors, the attendees, the speakers, the venues, the food. So a lot of things that are coming in play. And just to give you another statistics, because earlier I mentioned that the number one factor or the largest contributor of carbon emission in event is traveling. Yeah, but this is something that we cannot control. If we
Hmm.
take out traveling from any events, for corporate events, the biggest contributor, do you know what? What is it? It's actually food and beverages. You see, F&B.
Oh, serious?
Yep,
Wastage?
wastage, food
Hmm.
wastage.
Hmm.
Right? So sometimes we might not think that, but then when you are measuring, the numbers will come out. Yeah, and then
Hmm.
only you know whether or not and how little you're doing or contributing in terms of minimizing the effects will have an impact. Yeah, because once you know the
Hmm.
number, then you start. For example, yeah,
Yeah.
in even in F1 kan, kalau you tengok F1, what would be the biggest contributor of carbon emission in Formula? Doesn't matter lah, Formula One ke Formula Two ke. It is not actually traveling. It is freight and logistics. It's about
Hmm.
bringing those machines to
Hmm.
whichever locations and whatever tools that they need to bring in together. So
Right.
again, different type of events will have a different component of the
Yeah.
largest carbon emitter, lah, I would say. But
Hmm.
understanding your event and the ability to look at those numbers will ensure that whether or not you are in the right track. I mean, you can't compare with, yeah, of course, your daily traveling or commute to office. You can't compare
Yeah.
with the energy or the electricity that you use at your house, kan? But
Yeah.
events, even though it is happening like once a year for that
Hmm.
particular event, but
Hmm.
in Malaysia, how many events are happening in a week? and how many people are traveling from different places to attend that, and how many food is being served, is being bought, in terms of so many angles that we can definitely look and measure. So this is something that we need to be aware of.
So it all starts with awareness, because if you're not aware and you don't take stock of all these types of um, possible issues with regards to sustainability of your events, that's where you're not gonna be working on it. You're not gonna be working on improvements. So what's interesting to me is that when you look at different events organized, they can actually have different types of sustainability issues, and it's not like cast in stone or fixed. But you can come up with some general guidelines. So safety, the answer is you've got a lot more issues than just a little carbon. So organizations need to start taking stock of what would be relevant to their events. All right, and then we've got another question from Silmi. Is the metaverse the way forward to get the balance of both worlds? Okay, Yusno. Since you
Uh,
brought metaverse last year, let's talk about it again this year.
Not sure whether people still remember mentioned about or highlighted the fact that events are going to metaverse soon,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, in fact, it is happening now in the virtual reality world, VR. But are we there yet? I'm not sure. It's still a long way to go.
Mm.
Whether metaverse will give us the balance of both worlds, supposed to, by the way we are defining metaverse, meaning you get the best of both. Um, Again, I hope that will be the case, and of course by going metaverse, and we are hoping that it is also a sustainable metaverse as well, where
Mm.
you are looking at a lot of things, yeah, especially when you are building things that require a huge amount of energy consumption. Can your laptops, your VR sets, it's not something that your normal computer can normally process. So you definitely need better PCs, better laptops. But of course, over the coming years, all of that will be more efficient, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we will also look into a lot of renewable energies. Hopefully, they'll be powering up some of the servers. Yeah, and in fact, AWS, pun, if you're on Amazon AWS, I think they're targeting to go 100% renewable by
Mm.
2025.
Mm.
So, I mean, even though we are a technology company, we also actually look at the partners, meaning that where we host our platform. Okay? So right now
Mm.
we are hosting ourselves on AWS because we align ourselves with their goals. Kan, kalau you tengok, if they are making sure that all of their servers are on either solar or wind power,
Yeah.
that's a very good strategy. You see, that's a instead of your coal or whatever electricity generator yang not betul eco-friendly, kan? So I think tech side, moving towards metaverse, I think a lot more things need to be looked at. But I definitely believe that it will combine the best of both worlds in me.
This is inspiring me to get a solar panel to charge up my laptop and my monitor, because I do keep it running a long time in a day, and it is a good idea for savings as well of cash flow. If you start using solar, I guess. Okay.
Yes,
So um, do you use solar, Yusto?
good question because I actually just got solar for my entire house.
Ah,
So because yeah, I think we looked at the of course the pro and cons lah, the bill. I mean our electricity bill every month kan,
yeah,
and we do see that we can get better sort of like outcome or ROI lah in a way, in the
yeah.
long run. So I think we just switched to solar recently.
I remember I remember your story about how when you got started with Evenesis, you were pretty much inspired by your own experience of trying to organize your own wedding, and that's how you started with Evenesis, right? And
Yeah.
I've always known you as somebody who is an early adopter of ideas. And it's great to know that you're not just talking about sustainability. You've even like adopted solar for your home. I'm definitely inspired by this. I have to get solar for myself as well. All right,
Yeah,
we've got
yeah.
another question from Tita. All right, so Tita's question is, how do you maintain coordination between your teams to overcome challenges in hybrid events? So I'm going to add to that. Whilst ensuring sustainability, because I think we were talking about walking the talk, kan? So how do you apply that to the hybrid events that you manage for clients? Yeah.
To answer this question, I think it applies to not just hybrid events lah. Because at the end of the day, when you're project managing events, the challenge will always be the same. It's about the ability to manage the entire event
Mm,
successfully. So you
mm,
have to ensure you have a clear KPIs, objectives, and you must be able to ensure they are met lah. So I think what you're trying to get at is because of the virtual and the physical side, there bound to be a lot of coordination problems, meaning that communication between people on site and people online, right?
yeah.
If that's what you're trying to ask in terms of
Mm,
maintaining that balance and coordination, I think it's all about how you communicate between team members. Yeah,
yeah.
communication is super important even without hybrid events. I mean, in normal events, it's all boiled back to how do you communicate within your events team members lah, between
Mm,
your bosses, between the team, the staff, etc. So if you have the right way, the right channel, and then you tweak it a bit so that you know who are basically handling. So you would definitely have different sort of like people in charge for
yep.
the virtual audience and people in charge for the physical audience or the physical events. And
Mm,
these two guys must be able to react or work closely together to
mm,
ensure that the flow of the events are smooth. Then the events are basically there is no imbalance lah between what's
yep.
happening on site and what's happening virtually. Because sometimes you are on virtual, you can just see. Sometimes it's very hard for you to participate.
Yep.
The problems, the teething technical issues. So all of these things, you must have a dedicated team for you to
Mm,
ensure they are able to do that lah. So to say that you can replicate your physical teams and get them to serve your virtual punya site, I think some skills need to be upgraded definitely.
mm,
So I think the pandemic has taught a lot of the event organizers how
yep.
to run a virtual event. I think now
Yeah.
that we are coming back to both sides, I would say that a lot of this coordination is better lah. If
Mm,
there were no there were no pandemic, I think it would be a bit more haywire lah because people are all
mm.
trying to see what's virtual event is all about, kan?
We organize a lot of events, and I think one of the biggest challenges when it comes to one of the biggest challenge when it comes to organizing an online, what more hybrid, is trying to maintain a certain level of engagement online and offline, even separate, online separate from offline. The engagement is a challenge that needs to be faced by event organizers. What more when you put them together, having hybrid? So definitely, event organizers need to upskill. Their team needs to upskill, like your team. But I think when it comes to the sustainability angle, there needs to be upskilling for sure, so that everybody in the team is aware, so that in the process of organizing an event, that you try to I guess do as much as you can in order to ensure that the event is sustainable at all levels, right? Yus?
Yeah, yeah,
All
I
right.
totally agree with that. I think when you're dealing with hybrid events, you must understand that you're creating two different sets of experiences,
Mm,
virtual and physical. They are not the same. So we have to acknowledge that upfront.
yeah.
Because once you acknowledge that upfront, then you will have two separate teams to
Mm,
design the best experience for both worlds. Sebab kalau you just utilize one team and you expect them to have the same experience like the physical same like virtual,
That's
memang
what.
tak jadi. So
Yeah.
better choose one. But if you really want to do hybrid, you know that there will be additional cost. It will be costly, definitely. You need more resources, you need more people,
Yeah.
etc. So understand that hybrid is not something that you just put in because the availability of the virtual platform.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
set of experience will be different as well.
So you need different teams, and I'm thinking you might even need a dedicated sustainability monitoring team, because they're the ones that will be looking at the different critical parts or points where there are
Like that.
wastages
Yeah, we're
and
creating a new job opportunity.
yeah, yeah. We're doing it today. We're doing it today. You
Yep.
heard it from Yusno Yunos again today. That
Yeah, first here.
yeah, let's do it. Let's always look forward to something new. Always use every year. All right. Looks like we are at the end of the show. 1 hour has passed. We look forward to having you again, Yus, at our Turbocharge Live 2022, happening on 7th to 8th of October 2022. A big shout out to Evenesis, our ticketing and event partner for Turbocharge Live 2022. To everyone watching, thanks for watching us today. A lot of new things, a lot of new. I think some may find it awesome, some may find it dreadful, because they have to start thinking about, am I emitting extra carbon or wastages with my events? But it's always good to know what you need to be aware of. Thanks for watching. Remember to get your tickets for Turbocharge Live 2022, and see you again next time.
Thank you, everyone.